did last time. No, no, no. That's not what I wanted to do. You're just fine. You're just fine. You're just fine. You're just fine. Stop whining at me. Good morning, Sapphire. I am just trying to make sure that I get this out to people. I'm hoping everybody's having a great day. My dog is being especially needy today for some reason. So we'll see how long I can handle that. Okay. Okay, I think I got it all. Hey. Thank you, thank you. I was just going to talk about Homo Erectus today. As the new account is starting and we're building followers and everything else, making sure that people coming in understand a lot of the content and the subject, I think is a positive, because like we have a bunch of new people, we're going to have a bunch of new followers, right? And so I want to make sure with that. Also, I wanted to, after last live, make sure that we're not auto blocking anybody that is coming in. If somebody, it's really hard for all of the mods within here when we have like 400, 300, 200 people in here, and half of them are being really rude and really shitty, and trying to keep up on, you know, who's being rude and who's being shitty and who's not being rude and who's not being shitty, but asking genuine questions is really, really hard. So I want to try and follow a policy of mute first, and then if it get, or, you know, if it's just blatantly shitty behavior, of course, block. But if it's not, if it's any question, mute first for a few minutes and let them come back and, you know, maybe be more positive, right? So that we know what's going on, so that people who have some genuine questions aren't getting blocked or getting unable to answer those questions. Because I do have people that have come to me after the live who are like mute friends, and they're like, yeah, somebody blocked me and it was a real question, and I'm like, I'll answer that question, that's a real question, right? So I just want to make sure. And I, you know, and as I've told anybody who's come to me, it's very hard for my mods to distinguish in here. It is sometimes several hundred people who are being just really, really crappy. And then somebody's question will seem like it's one of the other questions, or their name may even get mixed up or things like that. And I'm not calling anybody out. I have no clue who blocked who. So, you know, it's definitely not a call out, because I also don't feel like it was a wrong thing. I feel like it's very protective. And that's what I said. I told I actually had two people come, and I said, listen, my mods are extremely protective. And if there's a whole bunch of shit that's coming at them, they're going to go, you know, they're going to take care of it and make sure that I'm safe. I think like the first mute, I think what was happening before was like probably a couple of minutes, like 5 minutes or so, but not so long that they can't like, you know, come back and then ask the question afterwards, right? And so I just want to make sure that, like I explained to them, it's totally like a protective thing, and it's very hard for everybody to distinguish with everything coming at them. It's hard for me to distinguish sometimes with everything coming at, and so it's totally understandable. I don't want anybody to feel like they did anything wrong. Uh, I just want to make sure that we're also including the ability to ask genuine questions, even if they seem weird, right? Like, let you know, okay, that one seems weird, but we'll let you slide, because you're maybe trying to get it right. Um, so uh, because we're in a space, or like because it's building up followers again, there's going to be a lot of people coming across, and a lot of people who are seeing the page, and a lot of people who are following the page who do not have the base level that we were talking about with the uh, with Homo erectus and with migration patterns and stuff like that before. And so I want to make sure that we go over this again for a while. Like it's going to be good morning, good morning. It's going to be, a couple of it's going to be a couple of weeks probably of doing some lives on Homo erectus and how Homo erectus migrates and how we speciate, right? These are really important in the theory of who we are these days, as it shifts and it's changing constantly right now. And so keeping up to date on the understandings and being able to parse out the understandings. I don't know what's going on. We're still at like pretty low, and it's been going for a couple minutes, and people are commenting and stuff. So I'm not sure. And I'm wondering, I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. When we're looking at the way this is happening, in the way modern science is kind of confirming indigenous science, and the way understanding is shifting across the globe, it's really important, because these understandings, as they're shifting across the globe, the way they shift our understanding of who we are as human beings and who we've always been as human beings, right? We have this concept of who we've always been, and the way our shift of understanding of who we are and who we always been happens really solidifies, I think, for people that what is going on right now is not exactly the healthiest thing in the world to be going on, right? I am going to end the live on TikTok, and I'm going to start it again in 10 minutes or in 5 minutes. I'm going to end the live on TikTok and start it again in 5 minutes and see if that's what's going on with it, because it's stable, and it's never stable. And so I think something's going on. Like, it isn't fluctuating in numbers on it at all. And like, it's not so much people coming in, right? It's the necessary of it should be flexing, right? It's not actually like tracking, and that's what I'm worried about. So I'm going to end it and come right back in. But I'm going to shut it down and then come back, right? So I'll be back. I will stay over on YouTube while I'm doing that, but I'll be back over on TikTok in just a couple of minutes after I reset everything. Much love. Okay. I'm still here. Yeah, looking at this, it wasn't even giving a whole lot of anything. I see you. What did you need is? I know. You just want all the attention today. All the attention. I'm going to restart my phone over there. You get the whole house behind me. You're really getting that corner over there, aren't you? That's kind of cool. I wonder if that just lets you see down my shirt, right? It's weird the way you can see things in my house, because that's like my door that you guys can see right there. It's my door. I know where my door is logistically in my brain, but I still had to look at that damn video and see if I was pointing in the right spot. Hey, chill. I also can't figure out how to make this like go into a square again because it wasn't a square again. That's his toy. Don't take his toy. Let's try this again. Hey, don't take toys. Nope, 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 nope. That's his toy. I'm not doing that, guys. Let's see. Hey. Okay, maybe it's on the thing now because it was not. Yes, okay. Perfection. Let's try. Okay, some people might be getting it 2 or 3 times, and I apologize. It's just the way that it's flowing out today. Because I now can't remember who I just sent it to because I sent it to a couple that were already in here. Hey, stop. Stop. You have your toys. Where is the little girl's toy? Here's a little girl's toy. So if you get my thing like 2 or 3 times a day, I apologize. It is, yes. Okay, now we're taking back off. Okay, so my live was not working. And so if you get this a couple of times a day, I apologize. I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting everybody though, because it's whacked out today. Now let's try this. There we go. Okay, we're going with that. See if that works. It looks like it's going. So thank you. I love my cats. They're really beautiful. And they're all 3 long hairs. And like, I joke that I got the crazy cat lady starter kit in long hair. I did that in like 2019 because like I was working for a while in summer and fall of 2019. And my dog was home alone for extended periods of time. And I felt guilty because he was home alone. And so I got a cat. And it turned out to be 3 cats because I rescued them. And they're like a bonded triplet set. And you can see Twitch up there napping. He has a twin brother who's a redhead. And the markings are all the same. They're the same size. And then their sister is half of their size. And she's a calico. And they're all long hairs. No, they're really not. And like I was never allergic to cats, but they can't sleep in my room anymore because I can't breathe when they sleep in my room. Like I sit there and sneeze and cough all night long. It was really bad for a long time. I had to kick them all out of my room, which is hard on me because I love my cats. And like one of them, Twitch here, he likes to sleep with his head in the palm of my hand. And I had a cat for a long time that did that. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, so I hate that, but you know, got to keep up on the breathing, right? The breathing. So I want to go ahead and for the next couple of weeks, we're going to go ahead and talk about Homo erectus again, just because of the fact that I want people to have a foundation of knowledge as more followers are coming in, as people are learning. I want there to be that foundation of knowledge of everything that we've talked about, right? And so I want to discuss Homo erectus and the way that we see Homo erectus as evolution and Homo erectus as migration, and the things that Homo erectus did, and how they affect who we are and how they affect the things that we have done, and how Homo erectus is really the how we are and the why we are today, right? And so that's why we're going to be discussing this for a couple of weeks. This picture, of course, we all know why I use it. It's also one of my followers' favorites. She loves it, and so I try and use it as well for them. And because I mean, Kinnis and Kinnis is just such a gorgeous image, and because this is exactly how this person would have looked like from our current knowledge and understanding, right? And there's nothing about that that states primitive. There's nothing about that that states less advanced. In fact, it is the advancements of this human and the advancement of this human species that give you the brain that you have, give you the phone that you have, give you every single thing that you have, because indigenous science is millions and millions of years old. And because it's millions of years old, that science that is about the earth, that science that is interconnected and interwoven with trying to understand and study the earth and fit within the niche of the earth better, which is what tenders do, right? What those who fit within the niche and try and understand their niche do. They try and do it better, right? So, with that, it's a very important subject to talk about. Homo erectus is roughly from 2 million years ago to 130,000 years ago, I think, is our current outliers for Homo erectus. Now, when we say stuff like that as scientists, it's important to understand that when we say we have finds from 2 million years ago to 130,000 years ago, this might not be, well, we know for a fact that just because this is the first that we have does not mean that it's the first in the record or the first that lived, right? You're not going to get the first that looks like this in the fossil record in a pristine way. Like, just because this skull is the earliest that we have does not mean it is the earliest of Homo erectus that there was. So our finds are from roughly Homo erectus, roughly 200,000, or Jebel Aharad, which is our earliest sapien, is in my head right now, and that's 300,000 years ago. Our finds with Homo erectus are roughly 2 million years ago to 130,000 years ago. And so this find specifically is about 1 point. No, wait, I'm sorry. It's right around a million years. And I can't remember, like, my brain only works on certain things, and numbers don't work for my brain sometimes. So the number in my brain is saying 1.7 million years ago, and I know that 1.7 million years ago is the wrong number for the underside on this number. So because that's what's in my brain, I can't get it, but it's like maybe it's like 700,000 years ago. I think it's 700,000 years ago. No, 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 no. No, it's 1.7. So it's over a million years old. I know that it's over a million years old. So when we're looking at that, because this find is that old, and our understanding of what that meant for our species at that time, the recreation done by Kinnis and Kinnis is a really good recreation, right? I think that the evidence absolutely supports Erectus giving rise to all the other species across the planet. Any species that was born outside of Africa comes from Homo erectus, because Homo erectus is the first Homo species, the first human hominoid to make it outside of Africa. Because Homo erectus is the first hominin to make it outside of Africa, Homo erectus is the ancestor of all the hominins that we see that were speciated outside of Africa. Let's talk about speciation just a little bit, right? So we have uh, roughly 5 methods of speciation that we know of as within modern science, right? I need to always point out that modern science, hold on, let me type something in so I can give them to you exactly. Within modern science, we see that modern science is a new field. right? The field of modern science is only a couple of hundred years old. It's very new. Indigenous science goes back millennia, but within Europe, modern science is very Eurocentric, and within Europe, science was eradicated for roughly 1,000 years because of their jealous God, and because science was eradicated for roughly 1,000 years because of their jealous God, their science is new. So Western science, Western academia, the science that everybody thinks is like the science is right is a very new subject. It's only a few hundred years old. Within any culture that was able to maintain their culture, science is thousands, hundreds of thousands, millennia year old. Right? It is science that is carried through with the generation. Science is understanding. Science is as seeking out knowledge of the world. Right? Okay, so thank you. Hey, whoa. See, now that, right? So just so we know, that was totally like supportive. Don't go away. You're still here, love. So, um, 5 types of speciation: allopatric, peripatric, sympatric, and artificial. So, allopathic occurs when a species separates into two separate groups that are isolated from one another. We've talked about that. That's typically the modern level of speciation. And please, I didn't mean to mean if I was. Modern level, that's what we thought our speciation, and that's what they teach as the normal method of speciation for more species. Each species develops differently based on the demands of their unique habitat or the genetic characteristics of the group that are passed to their offsprings. So what does this mean, right? When we're talking about speciation as two separate groups that are isolated from one another, we're talking about having a community, right? That is this is how it was explained in school. This is a really good explanation of it. A community of deer that are going from their summer pasture to their winter pasture, and landslide falls and blocks them. They're now isolated on two different sides, and because of the needs of each of those areas, they develop differently, right? They move into a different uh, so their development of their needs for the space creates them as fitting the niche within the space, right? So speciation through the demands of the habitat or the environment is being created to fit a niche within that environment, right? And it is modifying you, or the species that is speciating, right? That is modifying you to a way of fitting in that environment so that you can get all your needs within that environment, right? So a species is not going to speciate in a way that is toxic to their livability. So you're not going to speciate to eat something that's poisonous to you. You're going to speciate for it to not be poisonous anymore. Like if the only water source that you have is mildly poisonous constantly, you're going to speciate as a species to be able to handle that mild water source. You're not going to speciate as like all the people in your people that can handle the water source are the ones that are going to pass down their genes. The people in there that can't handle the water source are less likely to pass down their genes, right? So we don't speciate in a manner that's toxic. We speciate in a manner that fits the niche that we need to fill. Now, that's with all speciation, but especially within things like allopatric speciation, where it is literally the environment causing your development, right? And environment guides all development, anyways. Um, Peripatric speciation is when small groups of individuals break off from the larger group and form new species. Peripatric speciation has physical barriers that make it impossible for the members of the groups to interbreed with one another. The main difference between allopatric and periopatric is that one group is much smaller than the other, right? So, if we're looking at the way that Homo heidelbergensis and Homo neanderthal and Homo antecessor and Homo ergaster and stuff like that are speciating, this is peripatric, right? Because we see that what I saw was different. I thought he was saying that he Sorry, and obviously it's a little bit delayed in the thing. I saw it as him stating that it was. I thought he was saying that that was awesome. Like I thought it was a positive from him. That's how I took it. Um, I thought he actually said, "So did Homo erectus give rise to all of these others?" And when I was agreeing to that, he was like, "Oh, that's awesome." That's how I took what was going on. Just so, and that might it was just this quick scroll by. I might have missed a part of it. The main So when we see Homo erectus going out into those different spaces, Homo erectus staying within Africa actually has a larger group staying within Africa, and many of Homo erectus's children within Africa look similar and are similar, and they become subspecies that are similar to other subspecies, right? But Homo erectus outside of Africa becomes a periopatric speciation because they are in smaller groups with the larger group back home, right? And then the smaller groups become these other peoples that we see in our DNA and we see as we move across. Um, it's also so that's Peri, Patrick, and then there's Patrick. Now, this is when a species is spread out over a large geographic area. So this would be still within Africa. Homo erectus is spread out over a large geographic area. Although it's possible for any member of the species to mate with another member, individuals only mate with those in their own geographic region. So basically, it's like allelopathic and periopathic, right? Except for the fact that there's no land barriers that cause isolation, right? And because there's no land barriers that cause isolation, they're only mating within their geographic barrier, but it's not because there's actually a land barrier. That's how I took it. Thank you, Easy, for clarifying. Yeah, that's how I took it. I thought that it was so. And Sapphire, don't take that as you did something wrong, because you're also trying to protect. And I totally see that you're trying to protect and keep this environment safe. And that's what I've asked all of you guys to do, is to keep this environment safe, right? So what your job is as mods. So please do not take it as I'm like, what the fuck is wrong, right? I'm saying that's a really great example. Just understand that sometimes your perception might not be what their intention is. If unless it's repeated or it's just outright, like if somebody is using outright slurs and stuff like that, I try and muting. Yes, definitely don't block unless total slurs. But if give somebody a minute, but they're repeating, then try muting kind of stuff. And it's totally just because we never know. All right, we never know. So that would mean that we're back to Parapatrick. Parapatrick, with the Parapatrick, it's over broad, but there's no physical barriers. The barriers are more of a cultural barrier, I would state. I'm not sure a cultural barrier would apply for all species within this, right? I froze. Did I get? Hold on, it looks like I froze. One second, everybody. So can you see me at all? Any of you guys who are on both, can you see me over on TikTok at all? Because it looks like I'm completely frozen over there. It is a day for lives, isn't it? TikTok is totally frozen down. TikTok hates me today. Okay. Do you guys see me again? Am I here again? Hopefully, hopefully, hopefully. Okay, okay, okay. TikTok and me are not loving each other today. TikTok and me are having a conversation and it's not the best conversation. And I can't figure out how to redo my fucking thing to where it goes back into a square. And that drives me fucking nuts. I just want to say, it's gonna make me insane. Anyways, back to speciesization, right? Yeah, I'm having that love-hate relationship. And sometimes I'm pretty sure that this is an abusive relationship, and I swore to myself I was done with abusive relationships, but TikTok can be an abusive relationship, right? So Periopatric speciesization sometimes happens when part of an environment has been polluted. And this we'll see with animals where, mining activities. This one, the example here is mining activities leave waste with high amounts of metals like lead and zinc. These metals are absorbed into the soil, preventing most plants from growing. Such grasses, such as buffalo grass, can tolerate the metals. Buffalo grass, also known as vanilla grass, is native to Europe and Asia, but is now found throughout North America and South America too. Right? So it's a unique species from the grasses that grows in areas not polluted by metal because of the fact that the metal polluting the buffalo, I'm calling it vanilla grass. I hadn't seen that difference before, or like I hadn't heard that. So I'm going to call it vanilla grass from here on out. Vanilla grass has become a unique species from the grasses that grow in the areas not polluted. The long distances can make it impractical to travel to reproduce with other members of the species. Vanilla grass seeds pass on the characteristics of the members in that region to offspring. Sometimes the species is formed by periopatric speciesization, is especially suited to survive in a different kind of environment than the original species. This might be something that, so we haven't speciated further into different sets of our species, but having denisovan oxygen or having denisovan DNA within us, we consider the denisovans speciated to have an high altitude oxygen thing, right? So this would be a species, denisovan being a species that had periopatric speciesization from Neanderthals because it is shown that they kind of are, like their interactions are very far back in the speciesization of Denisovan. It's not sure just how divided from Neanderthal that they are, right? But that would be a periopatric thought process. And we see that all the Denisovans that we found in caves with Neanderthals. So it's not like they were in isolation from Neanderthals. So if their speciesization without isolation is happening and they're speciating differently from Neanderthals, it could be that part of their speciation was that high altitude gene because they're in high altitude regions, just like having the metals in the soil changes the way that the grass grows, having the different levels of oxygen in the air changes the way that the human grows, right? So sympatric speciesization is controversial. Some scientists don't believe it exists. Sympatric speciesization occurs when there are no physical barriers preventing any members of a species from mating with another, and all members are in close proximity to one another. The new species, perhaps based on a different food source or characteristic, seems to develop spontaneously. The theory is that some individuals become dependent on certain aspects of the environment, such as shelter or food sources. So that's a controversial one. Um, and then we all know what artificial speciesization is. Artificial speciesization is lab experiments, right? So those are five methods of speciesization. I didn't know sympatric. I think that sympatric was the one that I didn't know was out there because the one that I had known of that was theoretical is the one that got uh, proven to be actually how both Homo erectus and us speciated, which is speciation through convergence. And this is when many different species who share a recent common ancestor are intermixing and living together. And the convergence of these many different species' DNA creates an entirely new species. And so within the last year, they have found that speciesization through convergence, which they thought before was theoretical, with sympatric, it states that not all scientists agree with it, right? but they have like apple maggots was the example that they talked about. So they have actually specific, they do have examples of it. They're just debated examples of it, right? So with speciation through convergence, this has been something that's been completely theoretical. They haven't had examples of it until this thought process. At least that's my level of understanding from what I've read on this. Okay. So speciation through convergence shows speciation through many different um, groups of, many different communities. No, not different communities. So when you I'm just going to use Homo erectus and us as an example. So, what we know now within the last year of speciation of Homo erectus is that Homo erectus likely speciated from a convergence of Paranthropus boisei, Australopithecus africanus, and Homo habilis. So, Australopithecus africanus would be your Lucy. And Paranthropus boisei, we call him the Nutcracker Man. Am I echoing? I might be. I shouldn't be. Like I am I echoing for anybody else? I'm wondering if it's are you watching on both devices? Because I'm watching or I'm on YouTube as well. Um you might be if you're sensitive hearing, there's a background noise because my partner is sleeping. And so they work graves. And so I have background noise playing. No, you're fine. You're fine. I always like to check and make sure that it's not for everybody. And I'll always get distracted and ask, right? but so when we are looking at the new understanding within the last year, not only did we realize that Homo erectus comes from a convergence of these three different species, but when Homo erectus comes from a convergence of these three different species, um, what we have long thought was our handyman, right? Homo habilis. The word homo in Latin means human. And so the genus, so we see Paranthropus as a genus, Australopithecus as a genus, equine is the genus for a horse, and equine is the genus for a mule, right? Canine is the genus for a dog, and canine is the genus for a wolf, right? So when we look at ourselves, we see Homo, which is our genus. So within other species, you're going to see their genus, and then you're going to see their species, like we're Homo genus and sapien species or sapien species. So when we look at that Homo habilis, Homo meaning human, or man, basically it means man because, white men. Um, Homo meaning human and habilis meaning handy. So Homo habilis was our handyman. This is our oldest guy, and he's the one that we came from, and he's great great grandpa, right? So Homo habilis and Paranthropus boisei are found to have been living together. We thought that Homo habilis had invented the Oldowan tool complex, which is the oldest tools that we have. Oldowan tool complex is basically hammerstones and cobblestones, and it's flakes. The flakes that we see with Homo habilis are generally single-sided flakes, and they're not like a point. Like you don't have a dual flake a point on it, and they're very simple. They're very expedient in their creation, their use, right? So we see that there was a butchering of a hippo along the Nile River that was found last year or the year before, and it was published on last year. And what it was a site where they found a tooth from Paranthropus boisei at that site. Again, Paranthropus boisei, we call him the Nutcracker Man because he so sagittal crests are that line that goes down the center of a primate's head, right? Like a gorilla or an ape. Many different humans had this up until us. Then you can still see that sagittal crest on some of our early Homo species. But the sagittal crest is a line that runs here. This is because, so I'm going to break down your skull just a little bit to you. This here, your cheekbones, right? they're kind of like they come out, right? And there's kind of a hole underneath them, right? And the hole underneath them, there's muscles underneath that or through that hole, right? And those muscles attach, they'll attach here, but they'll also underneath because there's this ridge. Let me see if I can. So this is the occipital. It's different on us, so it's going to be a little bit harder. But on others, this here is, it comes out like this, right? And underneath that, the the muscle attachments from the jaw run up and they attach to the top of the skeleton. And this happens with us too. It just happens in a little bit of a thinner way, right? We don't have to chew through bark, and we don't have to chew through heavy leaves, and we don't have to crack nuts, right? So Paranthropus boisei is called that because he cracked nuts. Come on, baby. And so we see with Paranthropus boisei that he was living alongside Homo habilis, and he teaches Homo habilis how to create tools, how to use these tools. And he was also living alongside Lucy, Australopithecus africanus, right? So when we, oh baby, so when we see this convergence of these three different species living together, first of all, the fact that they converge and make Homo erectus, or that belief, tells us that they have a recent common ancestor, right? But their convergence together, they're intermarrying, for the simplest modern term, right? They're having babies together. This is our first example of something that's very human, and actually probably uniquely human. Most other species, if an animal is unique, they tend to be shunned, right? Within a Homo sapien, the concept of shunning something that looks unique is extremely new, and it is something that is used to control. It is something that the upper echelons of the created hierarchy use to control the lower echelons of the created hierarchy, right? If I can convince you that that person who looks different than you happens to be the problem instead of me, then you're not going to realize that I'm stealing from you. So I'm going to keep you checked, right? So when we see this, we see that within us, throughout the history of us, and it is in fact this specific thing within us that creates us. We love uniqueness. We love contrast. We love difference. We love shiny. We love new. We love bright. We're a very curious and creative species. And if I see something that looks different, I want to know everything about it, right? And so we see that this happens in this early convergence of these species to become this early species, right? So Homo erectus comes as a convergence through these three different species. Again, Paranthropus boisei, Australopithecus africanus, Lucy. Paranthropus boisei is the nutcracker man, and Homo habilis, or handyman. When Homo erectus comes on the scene, we believe currently at 2 million years ago. And again, like I said earlier, just because that's our oldest find does not mean it's the first of them, right? It would be weird if we actually found the very, very first person that looked like Homo erectus, and that's what made it through the fossil record, right? So our oldest find doesn't necessarily mean that's the first, or, it would be weird if it meant it was the first. So at 2 million years ago, we see the first of them. We see that by 1.3 or 1.9 million years ago, they've made it out of Africa, though. And it is this movement out of Africa that sets Homo erectus apart from all the other hominin species before him, right? And it is this movement out of Africa that is the expedient bipedalism that Homo erectus brings to themselves. Yes, absolutely. All of my lives are recorded on YouTube at the same time. So if you follow my YouTube channel, you can watch the lives anytime on my YouTube channel. So what we've got going on YouTube right now is a live stream, but it stays on YouTube. So you can go back through and watch all the lives that I do on YouTube. So if you would like to watch, yeah, because I know people's weekdays are off, and I can't do nights most of the time because by the time I hit 6 o'clock here, my brain is shutting down. Right, my brain's like, "You did too much today. You're done. go go relax." Right. So and I'm not very clear, unfortunately, and so I make sure I come in the mornings. But I totally understand different works and stuff like that. But all of them are on YouTube as a backup. Homo erectus has this unique capability that we call expedient bipedalism that really gives them the ability to make it across the globe. But they also have this other unique capability that we don't really see in anything else. There's many different species across the planet that create tools. Corvids create tools. Um, Beavers build the same house that they've been building for millions and millions of years, right? So um, when we see other species across the board, we see that they create tools, but they don't modify the tools that they created. Once they've created the tool and use the tool for what they're using it for, they don't seek to improve that tool. They don't seek to change that tool. They don't see something better that they can do with that tool. I say this as they don't adapt their adaptations. We all have adaptations. Only human adapts its adaptation. And this is something that we see only in human species. And this is something that we see across the board in anything that we think of as human is they adapt, except for Homo habilis, right? Which he may be reclassified, seeing hi. He may be reclassified, seeing he may be reclassified as we move forward, seeing as he's not the one that created the old one tool complex now. And now that we know that, right? So when we see this, we adapt our adaptations, and this adapting of our adaptations is something that we get from Homo erectus first, because it is Homo erectus that is the first one to take from the created by Paranthropus boisei Oldowan tool complex and adapt these tools into something new. It's also Homo erectus that we see who is the first to leave Africa. It's Homo erectus that we see who is the first to cross water. It's Homo erectus that we see that is the first to have clothing. It's Homo erectus that we see that's the first to have fire. It's Homo erectus that we see that's the first to have all of these things because of this curiosity that we have, right? We're very curious. We have the desire to see what's over the next horizon, and we have the desire to improve our surroundings always. Now, this desire to improve our surroundings has been kind of twisted and kind of perverted in a modern day concept. Yet we see that this desire to constantly improve our surroundings, and it's doing it again. I don't want to set the world. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and log because this is just like now I can figure out how did I do that? Like, oh fuck off. Sorry. Um, it just kicked me out again and came back in. So I'm gonna go ahead and log because obviously TikTok and I are having an argument today. I will try again tomorrow. Tomorrow might be Saturday. It might be a little bit weird. Let me see what I can do. It is. So I will try again tomorrow. If I cannot try again tomorrow, then I will go live again on Monday or on Sunday, depending on what's going on around here, because losing my office space means that I can't isolate to do lives, right? So I will try and make it back on within the next couple of days, but I am going to go ahead and take off because if it just keeps kicking me, it just gets annoying and I can't keep my train of thoughts. And, if I can't keep my train of thoughts, we're in, it's not going to work right. So have a great weekend, everybody. Much love to everybody. Remember, before I log, and it's slow in here, so I think that most of you guys have heard this before, but I'm going to remind you. Biologically, we are nurturing and communal. Biologically, without having nurturing and community, it causes problems mentally for us. So your feelings of problem, like you're the problem, or your feelings of depression or your feelings of anxiety is because you live in a society that tells you your biological drivers aren't there. And it kind of gaslights you about them and it kind of twists it around and you don't get what you need, right? So I want to remind everybody today that you are not the problem, that you deserve love just by breathing, because love is a necessity for life for human beings, and you deserve community and care. Um, and so if you're not getting it, make sure you give it to yourself, and make sure that you give yourself grace, because you also deserve grace. Every single one of us is worthy just by breathing of the right to live this existence. And every single one of us is worthy just by breathing of love and compassion and empathy. So give yourself some, because most of us don't. And if you're feeling feelings of depression or anxiety, or just feelings of, I guess today and lately for me, it's been feelings of inadequacy, right? If you're feeling these feelings, please understand that that's not the truth. That's a gaslight from society that's trying to create you to see something that you are not, right? Um, and you are beautiful, and I love you just for who you are, just for sitting here and breathing, and just for trying, and just for getting up every day and trying for all of us. I love you for that. I thank you for that. It is what keeps everybody else around you going. The fact that you get up every day and you keep trying, right? Take care of yourself. Much love to everybody. And I will be back as soon as I can get TikTok to stop arguing with me. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Cynthia. I totally understand that. I was 38 before I decided that I was beautiful. And most days I still have a hard time with it. Like most days I'm like, "Oh my god," right? Um, and what it was at 38, after I left my second husband and all the abuse I'd gone through, and everybody is still telling me how beautiful I am, and I'm like, even those who couldn't tell me I was intelligent or smart were telling me I was beautiful, right? And I went, "Well, shit. If every single fucking person around me tells me this, then it must be it, right?" So sometimes you have to hear it and 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 hear it. And that was only reinforced in school. They say that you have to hear something 7 times before it registers in your brain, right? So I'm stick around. Like, let's make sure that you understand and believe that, because you need to. You are loved and you are valued and you are worthy just by existing and just by being here, right? And you are not only just being here, you're trying to make it better for others, and that's huge, right? That's a really huge thing. So I'm so happy to hear that. It reminds me every time I have to say that, like I have to remind myself every day of the same thing. So I totally feel that. Take care. I will see you guys later. Bye.